All right, good morning, everybody. This is Wendy Walsh. I'm the Upper Susquehanna Coalition Watershed Coordinator. I just want to welcome everybody to another session of the USC and Otsego County Conservation Association Watershed Wednesday session. We appreciate you joining us to hear from the USC Stream team today. Streams are a key focus area for the USC, so I won't waste much time with an introduction. But I just want to introduce our speaker today, who is Mark Watts. He's a member of the Stream team and the district manager for Chemung County Soil and Water. And he's going to give us an overview of the work that they're doing in the Catherine Creek watershed and discussion on improving stream sustainability. So I appreciate Mark taking the time to give us an overview of some of the projects he's working on. And I will turn it over to him. Thanks, Mark.
No, thanks, Wendy. Yeah, this is kind of different for me. This is my first Zoom presentation, so. People do say I like to talk to myself, so maybe it'll go pretty good. I've been here by myself. But I'm going to talk a little bit about projects that act to improve the sustainability within the Catherine Creek watershed. Some people say, why are we working in there? Now, we have our engineer, Jimmy Joe. He thinks we do it just for him so he can go out and fish on Christmas Eve in 2018. He took that rainbow trout out of Catherine Creek, but we have a lot more issues in the stream. July 2013, we had a terrible storm event that went through. This is one of the houses, and actually this house is not in any kind of a floodway mapped area, but that red line shows where that water did finally get during that storm event. Had a person in the house, they said they looked out the window 11 o'clock, everything was fine. At 12:30, they had to be evacuated out of the house with him and his, I think he had like a 6 or 8 month old baby. So a lot of issues we were trying to contend with to get rid of that flooding. And we also had the wonderful thing, everybody knows what these are. These are what the people call their savior, their berms, their dikes, which we know actually what they are just gravel berms that have been built up over the years. This one has been here quite a long time, as you can tell by the size of the trees, but it still was just an uncompacted gravel berm. And when they fail at the highest level. Here's where this one failed. I can get that right through there. It broke right through there, and it flooded. I think there was 8 houses that it flooded out through here. And this dotted brown line is where that gravel berm still exists today. But it was just, it failed when the water is right at the top. And, you know, they were up here. This is the house. Oh, I lost my thing. Right there's the house that was being flooded. While they were trying to get these people out, all these houses were underwater. So, terrible storm. I forget how many inches, but it was a bad one. Here's people out afterwards trying to do their makeshift to try to keep the water in. You can see it really caused a lot of damage to those houses because that was a gravel berm. So improvements along the Catherine Creek and Panther Lake near Pine Valley. Many of you remember this, Jim Curtola's point, the multiple barrier approach. We try to use that a lot. And how I define the multiple barrier approach is just that when you look at a watershed, you don't look at just one issue. How many issues can you take care of? How many problems are out there that you can work on? And so we'll go through just a few of them. Phase 1, we did some work. We started with a Clare Street compacted berm. What that was is, remember, this is where we put that berm. We wanted to increase the area of floodway. So our key was that we're going to build that berm, and then once it's got established, go in there and take that gravel berm out and reconnect that stream to the floodplain. We're kind of fortunate in Chemung County. We own a lot of our own equipment, so we can do some of these projects. Here we're clearing the site for the dike. Right here behind this, you can see there's no vegetation. That's where it broke through that berm. So all we did was went through, and there's where the footprint of the dike was going to be. We have an engineer on staff, Jimmy Joe Carl, that designed the berm. Here we are putting the core trench in. We have a lot of great shared services in Chemung County, so all the municipalities will come on board to haul us our material. There's Mark Richer on we own this with Schuyler County, our own rollers, sheet foot rollers. That's one of our dozers that we're building with. Come in and mulched it. And there's what it looked like when it was all done. The guys on the side of the berm side are taking good care of theirs. The other side is supposed to be taken care of by the state, and they're not doing as nice a job as we'd like to see, but I think they'll, we'll have to help them get along with that. Now, a lot of people say, well, where do you get your material from? And like I say, we're looking at a multiple barrier approach. This is Jackson Farm Basin, which is in town of Big Flats. And it was a project where we're trying to increase the floodplain of Sing Sing Creek. And it was actually going to be a FEMA grant. They paid for the engineering and everything, but then decided it wasn't big enough for what they were looking for. So they did take the money away, but we decided to build it anyway. And what we're doing is going to take us maybe 10 years to build it. But we take material. So this is where we got the clay for our berm and all the material for our berm. We actually, our equipment's there, hauling it out of there. And we're slowly building the Jackson Farm Basin. So actually, while we're doing some work in one watershed, we're actually creating a floodplain into another watershed. And we've been able to do a lot of nice projects using the material from this project. Total cost for the berm was about $123,000, and most of that was in kind. We actually had about $40,000 in some material we had to buy, and then we also did a lot of work with a soil compaction group. We actually had to come in every day and make sure the compaction was where we wanted to meet for the engineer. And we were actually able to get New York State Parks and Rec to reimburse the district $40,000 for that project, for that material. Phase 2, we wanted to go in there and said that we had a lot of homes that were in the flood areas. Is there a way we can get those out? Here's a photograph of the 5 we did take out, and we'll show you those. There was one more I wanted to get right here, but at the time we didn't have the funding to do that. This is that house we showed you. That's actually right there, and you see it wasn't even in the floodway. So that shows you how good the flood maps are. You have to really look at what's being affected. This is one of the houses we were looking at, and when you're working with the government, you got to be patient, because I actually tried to buy this place in 1999 when the Bond Act was going through. They turned me down, but they did let me buy this in 2017 for $25,000. And then what we do is we go in with the fire departments out there, and they do their training on there. So they took it all out. 2 months after it was gone, this is what it looked like. That arrow shows where that trailer was. So that trailer would have been flooded at least 4 more times since we bought it in 2017, because it was just right in the floodway. So that was an excellent one to get out of there. This was another one that we took out. We took this back on a tax foreclosure. And again, we have great working relationships with our village Millport Fire Department. There they are. They're great. They did all my burns in that village of all those homes. There's what it looked like after it was cleaned up. 2018, we wanted to buy a couple more houses. That was the one that was inundated. Again, a village of Millport Fire Department and some other fire departments burn it as a training, so it helps us take care of it at a greatly reduced price. Another trailer that we purchased and took out. And this is all being left to green space. Now, where we got the money for some of this is in 2017, I had to pay $25,000 for Smith Road. Our hopes are to get that money back from the state. The state owns some property there for their rails to trails, and they did put in their long-range plans to buy that piece of property. So we're just hoping that comes through at some point in time. 7 Smith Road didn't cost us anything as we took it back for a tax sale, but it did cost us $8,700 to take out the asbestos. And our hopes were we did sell the fishing rights back to DEC and got $5,000 from them. So we actually got about $3,600 into that project. 2018, when we purchased the other properties, we had a little more money into them. For that Smith Road project, we had to pay $27,700. We had to do an asbestos survey and the removal. So we had a total cost of about $42,000. The one on Watkins Road, we paid $25,000. Again, the asbestos survey was $4,000. It was about $10,000 to take it out. So we had $39,000 into that one. Now, when I went to the county originally, I thought I told them we could do it for $80,000. We were close. We did it for $82,700. So the county put up $40,000, and then the district used our Part C funds that we get from the state, and we paid the other $42,700. I'm not sure who's on there, not from districts. If you're not from a district, Part C funding is money we get from the state. We have to do some performance measures. And if we meet those measures, they give us some additional money that we can do natural resource management, which we get to pick what we do with that money. And my board thought that was a good way of getting people out of the floodway. So this is a picture of the map. And why we wanted those properties is I'm going to show you, we wanted to replace this bridge. And we wanted to make this bridge higher. Well, if we made this bridge higher, we were going to change the flooding on these properties. and we know we're gonna have a hard time working with the landowner, so we just purchased them out. This one with a blue dot, I wanted to get, but at the time we didn't have the money. But things must happen for a reason, because I was actually putting this together last week and was out talking with Jessica and Stormwater. She said, you know, there's another house for sale on Smith Road, and got it, and it was the one we wanted. Now you see it started on July 10th, and I was talking to our county attorneys and treasurers on July 22nd, within 23 hours of that being sold again. And actually we're able to get it off. They did take it off, so we now own that. We're gonna take that out, and hopefully with the village of Millport Fire Department take that out, and we will own all the houses that we needed to in that floodplain to help us when we had to do phase 3, which is we wanted to replace this bridge on Smith Road, because you can see the debris that catches underneath it. It was one that every time it would catch debris and flood the homes around there. So working with the DPW, we did go in there and change that bridge. And one thing we're trying to change culturally is, if you see, this is where we go through. And if you see, as we always talked in our stream change, you want to walk the stream, see where the stabilized areas are, and you can see even this area looks pretty uniform across there, and they would always take too much out of there. They always were saying, we need more room under that bridge, and we tried to tell them that, you know, the more room you make under that bridge, it's going to drop and deposit. So we did convince them. We did put some rock structures in here to try to get this back so it's all the same, and hopefully it'll flush through there. Plus, we were able to raise the bridge up higher because we owned all the properties. The DPW paid for this one is $175,000 in materials, and we were able to change that bridge. So hopefully no flooding in that bridge again. Phase 4 we're working on as we speak. It's the stabilization of Panther Run or Panther Creek in Pine Valley. That's just a location map. This was again in July 2013. Those spruce trees that were there, I think there's actually 4. There's one left. The rest of them, there's one laying there. And we think that's one of the reasons that one bridge blocked and caused that house from flooding. This was a guy, he was using that for a garage. I think he lost almost 100 feet of stream bank during that one storm event and trees. Unconsolidated banks we have in this watershed. Just some pictures of what it is. It's just tough to hold anything on these. And that, you know, that bank there could be 50 years old. You know, they don't restabilize, and as it gets saturated, it keeps sloughing. Trees, we're having a hard time holding trees on the banks. So Jimmy Joe, our engineer, came up with a plan that we wanted to, and we know there's a lot of people that like to use tow wood and that. We still will use rock, and we liked it in this area because of just the soil types. We are going to try to get into more of tow wood, but this one we did use some pretty hard rock on it, but we think we needed it to try to stabilize those banks. And what we're actually coming and doing is on these eroded banks, we're trying to just put some tow rock in with one level of rock so that we can keep this with the depth ratio good, and then make this a floodplain again. Again, this is down below. We put some tow rock in, then we're going to try to veg this up with some willows. So if the water comes up, we'll let it come up on here. But we're hoping also if this sloughs a little bit, we can leave it on that bench is our goal. Here we are now. We're vegging. You know, Dave Derrick calls it vegging it up. We're trying to veg up all the banks. Here we're putting willows in, and we're again fortunate here in Chemung County. We obtain all our willow stock from Plant Materials Center. We go out there with our bow seeds and some other staff. We cut all of ours in March, and then Chemung and Skylar, we own a walk-in cooler here, so we're able to keep all our stuff in a cooler, so we can get our plant materials in March, put them in there, and then they're available for our projects. So it helps us in reducing the cost of willow plantings and that. Again, here you see we built the benches up here, so I can come in here, and this is all, I don't know if you can see them, but this is all willows. We put willows all up through here, all through here. So hopefully we got the stream width right, but if it does get too high, we've got a floodplain for that to go out onto. And hopefully we're going to stabilize so there's not so much material moving down the stream. Again, just some more of the rock with some of the willow plantings on it. This is a stream that comes in from the side. We have a couple engineered riffles. we're actually going to put a small detention area up there, but when we got in here, this stream has no bottom. We're good here, but right here, there's nothing. You can put a piece of rock there and just keep pushing it down. It just goes forever. And the same thing was up here. So we just did what we could to try to stabilize that with some rock and some willows, and this is all being planted. And we still have to go up, and we're going to put willow plantings all along the base of these rocks. We're going to take some willow plugs and go in there, hopefully next week, because this is actually going on as we speak right now. All this rock is going in. This is upstream. Again, this is probably a 30 or 40 foot bench, floodplain bench that we established. You know, we tried to keep the width right, but if it's got to go up, we'll let it go up there. And we actually made this so we hardened the ends so it can almost act like emergency spillway. Water can come up here and go down each side. And again, I know it's hard to see, but this is all willows that we put into there. And this is just looking upstream. Again, this is a bench we made. This is where all the trees were sloughing off, so we made a bench. This was all got willows on it. And again, we're going to put willow plugs all along the bottom of this. And we got some engineered riffles in here and some stream barbs just to try to keep the pressure off of that. And hopefully if it deposits there, it'll give a good growing medium for our willows. And we're hoping that we'll start making some nice holes for the trout below these weirs. This money came from a state grant, WQIP grant. That was $260,000, $170,000 from state funds, and we did 2 projects. This one we're doing in Chemung, and Jerry did one in Schuyler on Catherine Creek. So they should both be finished up by hopefully next week. Phase 5, which is the last phase we're going to get into. As we said, this was the berm that we built. That's gotten pretty well established, so now we're going to come in here and take out this gravel berm. I know we wanted to try to do it through the USC through there, but I think that grant, they had to close out, but we still are going to do it. And where we're going to take this is about a mile up the road. Trout Unlimited has a little area here that one of their longtime members has passed away, and they want to make a little memorial park up here, for Don Cook. So we're actually going to take the gravel up, make a driveway, make a little parking lot and a picnic area, and they may even do some primitive camping, but they own all this for the fishing access for the people up there that want to fish Catherine Creek. So, like I said, we try to look at different approaches so that we can try to look at a lot of issues, help with recreation, help with fishing, but also stabilize and help with flooding. It's been a nice project. That's about where we're at right now. And I guess I would open it up for questions.
Wonderful. We're actually not a huge group, so if folks would like to, you're welcome to unmute yourself to ask your question in person, or if you prefer, feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll make sure we pick Mark's brain.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
When you said the stream has no bottom, what does that mean?
It just means that there's a clay bottom. It's just like quicksand. And when you take a piece of equipment, it just starts to go out of sight.
Okay. And also you said you sold some of the land to the state for fishing access?
Yes, we sold some of that. Catherine Creek didn't have fishing rights on it. So the DEC approached us and said they would like to buy the fishing rights to that, and the county was glad to do that to help pay for some of the money for the asbestos surveys and removal.
So they made it a public fishing spot?
Yes.
Wonderful. Wow. Mark, I have one more question.
Yep.
What the hell is a lick? Panther lick?
I'm not sure how it got its name, but it's on the books that the name of that stream is Panther Lick. And I have yet to find anybody that can tell me how it got its name.
Thank you.
All right. We have, first we've just got some praise. So fantastic project, Mark. This comes from Mike, and he did a great job. And then the other question is, did Chemung County's stream bank restoration project factor into the project? So
I didn't hear that question.
Did the Chemung County Stream Bank Restoration Program factor into the project?
Oh, well, we do all the, our stream makers, we do all the work. We have all the equipment and the operators. So actually on that project, or any of these projects, there's no outside contractor. It's all done in-house with us and the municipalities.
Fantastic. And how many municipalities do you serve, Mark?
How many what?
Municipalities do you serve in your district?
There's 11 towns, 6 villages in the city of Elmira.
Fantastic.
And they all put in, how that stream bank program got started in 2011. We convinced the county to upfront $400,000 to buy the first excavator and dozer. And what we do is we have an agreement with the towns. The towns put into an account $1 per person for every person that lives in the town. They put $1 in for the maintenance and the use of the equipment. And so that we have some, like town of Baldwin has 900 people. They pay $900 a year and they have access to all our equipment and people. And then you get some of the bigger towns like Big Flats, who have 17,000 people. They put up $17,000 a year. But it's grown to the place now where we own 4 excavators, 2 dozers, some end dumps, skid steers. I mean, they got a pretty good pile of equipment that they can use. And a lot of it's in the CAT program where we trade it every 2 years to buy new. So the equipment stays up in shape, and municipality can just call and say, we need to use this, we need to use that, or we'll actually come and help them with whatever project they have involved.
Fantastic, and that seems to go over well. Municipalities enjoy that opportunity. It sounds like they take advantage of it. All right.
It's a great program. The people love it. The towns, we have 5 years agreements with the towns, and I think we're in our 3rd 5-year agreement, or at least 2nd. And that you don't even have to go talk to them. They sign right back up and say, let's go.
Perfect. Wonderful. We have another question, Mark. The question is, how open were the landowners initially to being bought out for these projects?
I'm having a hard time hearing the questions.
Sorry. I said, how open were the landowners initially to being bought out for the projects?
Like I said, they were all perfectly willing to be bought out, except that one trailer when I tried 1999. He was a landlord, and so I don't know if he really cared how many times his tenants got flooded. I think if we would have wrote him a check for 75 or 80,000, he would have sold. But everything's been voluntary. Nothing's been eminent domain or anything of that nature.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions, folks? Feel free to pop them in the chat box or go ahead and unmute yourself to ask Mark directly.
Hey, Mark,
Yes.
see that trout that Jimmy Joe has?
Yes.
Would you tell him that it looks to me like he bought it at Maine Harvest Seafood and he didn't catch it?
Yeah, it probably is. And I mean,
Thank you.
I remember that year. That was the day before Christmas, and it was like 60, 70 degrees out.
Yeah, I remember that.
Day.
Well, we have just a couple more minutes. Anyone else? If not, we'll hand it back over to Wendy.
Okay, so.
And we are going to, if anybody's interested, I think we are going to work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife on Catherine Creek to do a towwood project later this fall. Probably about 300 foot of towwood. So we're interested in to try it and see how it works.
Great. Thanks, Mark. This is Wendy again. I just, if there's no other questions, I'll kind of wrap things up. I did want to mention, Mark, we still do have berm money. So if it's possible to get that project done this year, we could probably help support that work.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Let me know. So I just want to say thank you to Mark again. I think this was a great session on using the multiple barrier approach that he explained. It was interesting to see so many different approaches being utilized to improve sustainability in the Catherine Creek watershed. I think it was a really great presentation on all the different types of projects and tools that we have to utilize to implement projects in our watershed. So Just a reminder to everybody that our next session will be on Wednesday, the 5th. It will be focusing on the Bradford County Conservation Cropping Program and their use of some innovative technologies. Also a reminder, if you miss a session or are unable to attend one in the future, that all of these sessions are being recorded and being put on the USC's website. Again, I just want to thank Mark and his team for this great presentation, and then also thank everybody for attending today. So thank you very much, and I hope everybody has a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye.